His red MAGA hat became the target of one woman's outrage, as she decided her moral superiority outweighed another person's dignity. Insults, shouting, and even pepper spray, all in an attempt to prove who was right. But little did she know, the man she was humiliating wasn't just anyone in a cap. He was someone whose name commands respect at the highest level. What happened next turned everything upside down and left her to face her shame alone. It was a sunny morning in the heart of New York City. John Stevens, a fit man in his mid-60s, walked into a cafe wearing a red MAGA cap, instantly drawing glances from around the room. His calm demeanor and slight smile seemed to radiate confidence. Choosing a table by the window, he ordered a black coffee and began enjoying the view of the bustling streets outside. His peaceful morning ritual was abruptly interrupted. At the neighboring table, Karen, a woman in her 40s with a short haircut and a strict business suit, nearly choked on her latte at the sight of the cap, her face contorted with indignation. "How dare you wear that disgraceful thing?" she blurted loudly, casting a fiery glare at John. He looked up, his expression calm, with a barely noticeable smile. "Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you?" he responded politely. Karen bristled. "Help me? You could start by taking off that hateful hat of yours." The cafe fell silent. A few patrons began whispering, and some reached for their phones to record the scene. John took a slow sip of his coffee, as if nothing was amiss. "I didn't think my hat would draw such attention," he said lightly. Karen shot to her feet, slamming her palms on the table. "Your views are provocative and offensive." Unbothered, John gave a faint smile. Provocation lies with the offended, not the one wearing the hat. The crowd chuckled softly. Karen, her face flushing red, grabbed her phone. "We'll see how you keep smiling once your face is all over the internet." John calmly gestured toward the others already filming her outburst. "You might be a little late to the party, ma'am," he remarked, prompting another wave of laughter. Karen, like a volcano on the verge of eruption, decided patience was clearly not her virtue. Her face burning with indignation, she stormed over to the counter, where the cafe manager, a young woman in her 20s, looked startled by the approaching whirlwind. "Why are you letting people like that in here?" Karen demanded, pointing an accusatory finger at John. "That man is wearing a symbol of hatred. This is unacceptable." The manager, visibly flustered, glanced nervously at John, who continued sipping his coffee, seemingly unfazed by the commotion. "Ma'am," the manager began hesitantly, "we don't have any rules against customers wearing, well, hats." Karen let out an incredulous huff, her eyes flashing with righteous determination. She fished into her handbag, pulled out a can of pepper spray, and spun around dramatically. Her voice, loud and theatrical, cut through the cafe. "Maybe this will teach you what it feels like to be offended." Before anyone could react, a stream of pepper spray hit John square in the face. Gasps echoed through the room. Patrons leapt from their seats, and the young couple near the window began recording the chaos. Some rushed toward Karen, trying to stop her, but it was too late. John coughed as his eyes reddened, yet he astonishingly maintained his composure. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a handkerchief and methodically wiped his face, as if he were dabbing away raindrops, not the sting of pepper spray. His voice, calm and steady, rose above the frantic chatter. "That was unnecessary, ma'am." The cafe erupted into activity. Someone was calling the police. Others glared at Karen with disapproval, while many continued to film the unfolding drama. John, however, remained seated, his expression serene, though tinged with mild disappointment. More like a teacher dealing with a disruptive student than a victim of assault. Karen, realizing that her actions had drawn far more judgment than support, froze in place. Her eyes darted nervously to the crowd, which clearly wasn't rallying behind her. What started as a quiet morning had turned into a spectacle, leaving Karen isolated in the very cafe where she had sought to assert her moral authority. The silence in the cafe was shattered by a loud and authoritative male voice. "What's going on here?" All eyes turned toward the entrance, where two men in immaculate military uniforms stood. Their posture and serious expressions immediately conveyed their high rank. One of them, a tall, silver-haired man adorned with medals on his lapel, surveyed the scene, his gaze locking onto John. Without hesitation, he snapped to attention and saluted. "General Stevens, sir! We've been looking for you!" The cafe plunged into a stunned hush. Karen stood frozen, as if struck by lightning. Her face turned as white as the foam atop her unfinished latte. "General?" she stammered, barely able to form the word. John, still as composed as ever, looked at Karen and allowed himself a faint smile. "Yes, ma'am," he said calmly. "I'm a retired general of the U.S. Army. I was here for a meeting with my colleagues to discuss support initiatives for our veterans. But it seems someone decided my hat was the bigger issue." His words hung in the air, leaving an echo of shock in their wake. A few gasps punctuated the silence. One man muttered under his breath, "Unbelievable." Meanwhile, videos recorded on phones were already making their way to the internet, gaining momentum as the moment unfolded. Karen, who just moments earlier had been brimming with fury and self-righteousness, now looked like a cornered animal. Her face cycled between panic and shame as the judgmental stares of the crowd bore down on her. She tried to back away but stumbled into a table, causing the clatter of falling utensils. John, ever the picture of poise, adjusted his red MAGA cap slightly and nodded to the military officer. "It seems we have business to attend to." The unwavering calmness of his demeanor only heightened the drama. Karen, now the center of unwanted attention, felt the weight of her actions crashing down on her. What she had thought would be her moment of triumph had turned into a resounding public humiliation. Moments later, 2 police officers entered the cafe. One of them, a tall man with a firm expression, stepped in front of Karen, who was desperately trying to justify her actions with frantic hand gestures. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for assault," the officer said firmly as he placed handcuffs on her. The cafe manager, a young man with a badge that read manager, chimed in loudly. "We called the police because of your behavior, ma'am. That kind of conduct isn't tolerated here." The previously tense atmosphere erupted into applause. Some patrons shouted words of encouragement toward John. "Way to go, General!" "You handled that like a pro." John, still wearing his signature red cap, gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Turning to Karen, he addressed her with a calm, even tone. "I hope this serves as a lesson, ma'am. Respect matters, even when you disagree with someone's views." Karen attempted to retort, but her words were drowned out by the clamor of the crowd. Her face, now a mix of humiliation and impotent rage, reflected her realization that the tide had fully turned against her. As the police escorted her out of the cafe under a barrage of camera flashes and murmurs, her head hung low. John, accompanied by the 2 military men, prepared to leave. Pausing for a moment at the door, he turned back and added with a gentle smile, "Have a good day, ma'am. Don't worry too much. We all make mistakes sometimes." His words, delivered with an air of serene authority, elicited another round of applause and laughter. By the next day, footage of the incident had gone viral. The videos, now circulating across social media platforms, had racked up millions of views and sparked thousands of comments. Karen quickly became a symbol of intolerance, with her actions drawing widespread condemnation. Her employer wasted no time issuing a statement announcing her termination for inappropriate behavior. John, on the other hand, became a national sensation. Invited to several major talk shows, he spoke with grace and dignity, reminding viewers of the importance of respecting others, even in the face of differing opinions. His words struck a chord and were widely quoted. The MAGA cap, once the source of division, unexpectedly gained a fresh wave of popularity as a symbol of resilience and civility. Karen, meanwhile, stayed at home, avoiding public appearances as the fallout from her actions played out on a global stage. Watching her mistakes replayed endlessly on screens around the world, she came to understand the true cost of her actions, a harsh but unforgettable lesson in tolerance and humility.